Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. I can't tell you how helpful that really is. Honestly, thank you so much. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from the Am I Wrong subreddit from Bookkeeper Shot 5579. And it says, my husband and I were walking in our neighborhood when a man stopped us in front of his house and claimed my husband was having an affair with his wife. My 62 female husband, 59 male, who I'll call Jay, have been together for 26 years, married for 25 and a half. He is one of the most wonderful people I know. I have a very rough, dysfunctional, abusive childhood. It took years of therapy and tons of support from Jay to get to the other side and really learn how to love and trust. I also have ADHD, OCD, and suffer from anxiety and PTSD from my traumatic childhood. Jay has always been supportive and actually maintained a great sense of humor, especially with my ADHD. He actually was the one who suggested looking into a diagnosis. I was diagnosed about 10 years ago. We met when my daughter, 34, T, was 8 years old. I've been a single mum, so T and I are very close. We went to family counseling right after we married. His suggestion, because we wanted to assure we integrated our family and learn how to do that with steps. To say that it was amazing is an understatement. Jay and T love each other so much. It took a while, but we really worked at it. I tell you all of this to give a brief glimpse of why I trust Jay implicitly. We've gone through so much together. There were times that I thought there was no way he was going to stay, that this would be the straw that broke the camel's back, but he has never left my side. When this man stopped us, he said my husband was having an affair with his wife. Both this man and his wife are well into their 80s. We thought he was joking at first and both of us started laughing. We then realized that he was serious. At first, he tried to say that it occurred during lockdown for COVID while I was at work. I told him that was impossible because I'm a teacher and taught remotely from home for over a year. We asked him why he thought this was occurring, and he said that his wife, who's in the late stages of Alzheimer's, confessed to him. We asked if he knew a time frame when this supposedly occurred, as we have motion cameras around our house. Yes, I'm very paranoid, and we could get footage so he could see that his wife has never been to our home. He said he didn't know and couldn't ask her due to the Alzheimer's. This whole thing was so surreal. I was furious. I told him there was no way this happened and my husband would never purposely hurt me. He said that's what all people say when confronted. There was a lot more back and forth, but he refused to back down, even though there was absolutely no evidence other than a confession from a woman in late stages of Alzheimer's. I am not naive nor blind. There are zero red flags. My husband treats me so well and we do everything together. I 100% believe this so-called affair never occurred. My question is, what do I do now? Do I get a restraining order to assure he stays away from us? All of the crazy that happened in my life. This has got to be top of the list. Am I wrong to want to get a restraining order against an 80-year-old man? Whoa, I can only imagine what a weird situation that would be, just walking down the street and then getting stopped with this. But my mind just goes to, I wonder what that guy is going through, watching his wife deal with Alzheimer's at the same time and, dealing with that, all the caregiving and everything that goes with it. I can only imagine the number that does on your own mind at the same time. And I kind of just felt, and I really don't know, but it just felt like the thought of getting a restraining order against this person might be overkill. It might not be because, we've seen some weird shit in the past at the same time, but would they even give a restraining order based on this information anyway? Doesn't even sound like he's done much apart from come out of his garden and say these particular words. And I'm not playing down how this could have, the knock-on effect this could have on OP and their partner, etc. But it just sounds like a elderly man that's struggling with life at the moment. And I wonder if there's some sort of adult protective services that could maybe check in on them to see how they're doing. Because, it sounds like he might need support at this moment in time. Again, I know it's not OP's place, but it's heartbreaking to think what he's going through at the same time. But Juliet Jane says, do you need a restraining order? You're in front of his house, right? Did he threaten you or say anything to make you think he would bother you? Maybe he is also very confused. Opie says yeah, he told Jay not to go near his property or he would be sorry. We honestly are just worried that he may own a firearm. It's impossible to not go near his property. I don't want my husband hurt. Another commenter says that the thing is, it well could have happened. I was mistaken several times for my ex-girlfriend's grandmother's younger brother when I went to visit with her. It was awkward, but we navigated it, even after she threw a minor fit that I was dating my own grandniece, and it was wholly inappropriate and screamed the house down. Alzheimer's chews Swiss cheese holes in the cerebellum, and to cope with it, the mind patches it in convenient identities and fills in the gaps. Edit, yes, I'm aware this is not accurate in a strictly technical or medical sense. It's a metaphor, people. Human minds are fragile, and we stretch and borrow to cover up holes in our memories. Yeesh. His wife might well have had an affair 20 years past or more, and the Opie's husband might have looked like that man and replaced the identities. And the husband, hurt and wounded, confronted them because even though he knows that it's not the Opie's husband, but he can't not, because not only is he absolutely wounded by the confession, but also that he knows it isn't his wife's lover, or even that his wife had an affair, but that this is the only way he can cope with her dementia. What an awful situation for all of them. The OP, her husband, the accuser, and his wife. There's just no good side here. Everything sucks here, but nobody does. Opie said after that, we were discussing this afterwards. I really am ignorant about the effects of Alzheimer's, but I thought that perhaps this could be the case. My husband works from home. During lunch, he takes laps around the neighborhood and thinks maybe that is where she saw him. Another commenter says, my grandfather had Alzheimer's that caused him to believe things that never happened. He didn't understand that it wasn't true because he remembered going through it. This is one of the few times I'd say to let it slide. If you see the man again, just say that you looked through all of your camera footage and alerts, and there was nothing suspicious. You can't say for sure she didn't cheat, but you can say it wasn't with your husband. Opie says, yeah, I like this idea. He must be so lonely, and then to be dealing with this. I think he wants to believe a cause that would mean she's normal again and remember things, even if they are bad things. So OP did update the post and says, damn, I'm so sorry, it took me forever to figure out how to edit this. I have no idea how to update. This is my first post. First, I'm reading all of the comments and taking them to heart. I read all of the time people thanking the Reddit community for their help and insight, and that is not a lie. You've all shared your stories and really educated me about these horrible disorders. I never realized how horrendous Alzheimer's and dementia are, and not only how they affect the person with the disorder, but the devastation this has on those that love them. You've helped to understand how this man and his wife need our compassion and grace. I did speak with a person in the neighborhood. I was worried about getting anyone involved officially because, as many pointed out, this could cause more harm than good. She assured me that they do have children and friends that do check on them, but she actually has not seen them around a lot lately. She will reach out to them. Next, I was walking around our neighborhood. Some people suggested that I do not walk by their house, but that would be impossible. Think of like a thermometer shape. It's a long street with a cul-de-sac at the end. But in the middle is this big island with 5 houses on it. Anyway, at one point, the gentleman knocked on his window and pulled the top down. He asked to speak with me. I said that may not be the best idea as he essentially accused my husband of a horrendous crime. He said it would only take a few minutes and it was not something bad. I told him I would not go onto his property, and I actually backed up into the middle of the street. He asked if I would be okay with going into his porch, and I said yes. He immediately apologized. He said my husband's demeanor was what made him realize there was not any truth to what his wife said. He said what many of you have told me about Alzheimer's, and he realized what his wife told him could not have occurred. I told him that I was so happy he realized this because after all I learned in the last 12 hours, it was breaking my heart that this may be the last memory he had of the person he spent most of his whole life with. He thanked me. So I'm thanking all of you that made me realize compassion and grace should be the go-to. We actually then had a nice conversation. Altogether talked about 15-ish minutes. He asked me to apologize to my husband for him. I told him I would, and we said see you later. He had a really big smile on his face. Again, I do not think that this would have ended this way without all of your input. Even those of you that called me a Karen. That's okay. I used to teach at a behavioral school. I've been called worse. And for me, that's like a really lovely ending in an absolute shitty situation. That they was able to talk it out, show a bit of human connection, and, you know, him being able to recognize his own mistakes and apologize. And in the end, let's just face it, he was just scared, which absolutely breaks my heart for him. Like I've told you in previous, but I'm not trying to take away from the post in any way here, just trying to relate to it in some kind of way, and the feelings of scared and helplessness. And, you know, I go back to my dad and his deterioration with mesothelioma. I'm watching my dad in like the last month when he would get confused, and he was on a lot of medication, and he would see things. Like, stood in the room once, I've told you about before, stood in the room and had my back towards the window, and suddenly my dad said he saw a plane coming towards the window. I shit myself at first. He was like, "Mark, watch out, there's a plane coming." I sort of like ducked down. I was like, "What the hell, Dad?" And I kind of chuckled to myself at the same time afterwards, because I was like, that's just, it's a wild situation. But then there was times as well when he would see my mum. I remember one time stood at the side of his bed, and he just sort of said, "Mark, your mum's here," and then pointed towards the corner of the room, and then he said, "Come sit down," and said her name. And then he could see her sat at the side of the bed, which again, it was a weird mixed feeling. It was like a comfort that he's seeing her, and he's getting he's getting something out of it. Sad at the same time, because, you know, he's just seeing these things. And this was just, for my dad, it was just like, I know it's not Alzheimer's, so, you know, again, I'm not trying to like take over OP's story here or anything, but that was just over like a 9-month span, saw that sort of deterioration. So to be dealing with Alzheimer's, which I know can be a very long period, it's just absolutely sad. But I really do hope in some way going forward that they are able to connect as neighbors and maybe help each other out in some way. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit from Hattie Runner, who says, "Am I the arsehole here for not wanting my daughter's party turned into a pregnancy announcement?" Some context: my brother-in-law, 30 male, has lived with my husband and I on and off for close to 8 years. Even when my husband and I had kids, he lived with us. Last year, he got serious about finding a relationship. I was happy for him when he found someone in November. He moved into her house in December. In April, they found out brother-in-law's girlfriend is pregnant. She's due in January. She told her family right away and left it up to brother-in-law to tell his. He chose to be a coward and say nothing. Well, tomorrow my daughter is turning 2, and brother-in-law has decided that is when he'll tell everyone. Mostly because when they show up, his girlfriend is very obviously pregnant. I'm kind of livid. Father-in-law is known to fly off the handle for things. Our son ate a goldfish cracker off of our floor, and father-in-law had a fit about how disgusting that was, made a scene, and stormed out of a get-together. He's also told my husband that he needs to watch himself because apparently I'm not the right kind of woman. Back to the party. I don't want this announcement to happen because if father-in-law flies off the handle, my daughter's party is ruined. Even if he doesn't, it's suddenly going to be a pregnancy/gender reveal and no one's going to remember why they're actually there. I know my daughter won't remember it, but I will. My husband thinks it's not a big deal and he's excited. I've tried to communicate my anxiety about it, but he says his dad will be fine. I told him the only way this is happening is if his brother goes to their parents' house well before the party and tells them. Otherwise, I'll be kicking people out. He scoffed but said okay. Now I'm just really conflicted. Am I the arsehole here? I know it's not really the point of this story, but I couldn't get over the very beginning. The brother-in-law living with them for close to 8 years, even when they had kids and, you know, they got their own relationship and stuff going on. It's still living with him, but I was just like, what's going on? And then suddenly, he wants to find love. Finds it, moves in, pregnant, all within a quick time span. It just felt like so convenient. And now this guy wants to announce his pregnancy at a child's party. I just like, what the hell's going on? And then you got father-in-law who sounds like a right knobhead at the same time. He said to your husband, you're not the right kind of woman. Don't let him in your house. And the husband not saying anything to this as well is wild in itself. It just sounds like OP surrounded by, I don't want to say it, but it sounds like arseholes. Commodore says to OP, not the arsehole. If brother-in-law is going to be too cowardish to say something, you could always beat them to the punch and spill the beans for him. Would it be a dick move? Yeah, but also they shouldn't be co-opting your kid's birthday to announce a pregnancy. OP says, I've been trying so hard to not drop hints into the in-laws. My husband and I have known since April. Brother-in-law just hasn't told their parents. Commodore says, don't invite your father-in-law if he is that delicate, and tell your brother-in-law he isn't invited unless he tells everyone before the party. OP says, I pondered these options. I'm also worried for the girlfriend's feelings. I don't know her too well, and I'm sure brother-in-law has told her how father-in-law was growing up. But it's one thing to hear stories about it versus being the target of his rage-filled rants. I've experienced quite a few. Commodore says, I'm wondering if brother-in-law moved in with girlfriend and is helping pay any of the expenses. Sounds like he has always been a mooch and girlfriend needs to know that was his game plan moving forward. Sounds like a real loser to me. Did he help with rent or anything when he lived with you and your husband? Did he work? OP says when he moved in with her, he'd been out of a job. Company went under for a few months. He got a grown-up job just before they found out she was pregnant. While he was out of work and living with her, girlfriend expected the house to be clean and he'd do the cooking. He made a comment about how he felt like a 1950s housewife. Commodore says, not the arsehole. Honestly, your husband is the biggest arsehole for not having your back. I'll take the birthday girl and yourself and go celebrate her somewhere else on your own, since father-in-law already doesn't like you. Husband isn't supporting you or respecting your boundaries and home together. His little shit-ass brother wants to hijack his niece's own birthday because he's a coward. Just go enjoy the day with her and let that bomb explode on its own. If husband doesn't like that, he should have had your back. Hope he at least has your side when his family is nasty to you. OP says he does usually have my back. His dad is the only one with a problem with me. When I was talking to him about why he thought it was a good idea, he said because we had such a great experience telling his parents about our pregnancies, he wanted to be there for his brother in that moment. I had to remind him that at the time of our first pregnancy, we'd been married 2 years and together for 9, where brother-in-law met, moved in with, and got pregnant in 5 months. And then there was more information on the OP's husband relationship with his brother and says, my husband has the mentality that he needs to look out for his brother. He's the oldest and it shows. So when his brother gets in a pickle, we take him in. However, this time when brother-in-law said he was moving out, I made it extremely clear that if this relationship goes south, he is not to come back here. He's 30 and needs to start acting like it. My husband agreed with this. Someone says, why is this going to cause father-in-law to be upset? Opie says, father-in-law is, quotes, old-fashioned. Even after being with my husband for 9 years, when I first was born, father-in-law told my husband to protect himself, just in case. So I can't imagine what I have to say about a woman that he's been around less than a year, not married and pregnant. That's why I'm concerned for the girlfriend's feelings, especially because she was pushing brother-in-law to tell everyone at 12 weeks. To be clear, no one else in the family is judgmental like this, just father-in-law. But the question is, who's enabling it? So OP did come in with her update and says, well, if anyone smelled smoke today, it was probably the dumpster fire that was my daughter's party. Firstly, father-in-law actually seemed to take the news pretty well. Surprisingly, mother-in-law was more angry that he waited so long to tell them. No scene was made. However, every conversation from that point forward was all about the baby and pregnancy and how girlfriend told her parents, is there a name yet, etc. Mother-in-law made a comment about how my husband and I can now give brother-in-law and girlfriend all the baby stuff we're not using anymore. As an added bonus, brother-in-law also decided to use this opportunity to tell everyone him and his girlfriend are engaged, and they're planning a big move to relocate closer to her family and I guess us, before she's due. So on top of the baby questions, there was also conversations about wedding planning and house hunting. As another addition, my sister and her daughter came, except my niece has an active staph infection and has been on antibiotics for 24 hours. But this wasn't mentioned to us until the party was almost over. It was assumed it not be a big deal because all open wounds were covered and she had 24 hours of antibiotics. My husband was furious and pulled me to the side to say some not nice things about it. After that, I shut down. I isolated myself, putting together my daughter's new toys. Everyone left pretty early and everyone was feeling tense. I'm feeling pretty upset and defeated, and now I have to monitor my 3 young kids for sign of staph infection and trying to sanitize my house. I think I'm done having parties for a while. Commenter says to OP on the back of this, so is your husband pissed at his family as well? Because both your families suck. OP replied saying no, he's really pleased with how his family was. Commenter replies saying, so your husband definitely sucks. Ugh, what an absolute shit situation. It's time for OP to start speaking up against this because that's absolutely ridiculous. Husband is pleased with all this. Brother-in-laws came in and made multiple announcements. It wasn't just the pregnancy. And the whole family being exposed to an infection at the same time. And, husband's pleased about all of this. What an absolute teapot. And now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? How would you deal with it if it was you? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories. Your love, your support, your time, your support towards one another as well is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.